Kiểm tra tiếng 1, 2, 3, 4. Chị thử Good morning. Thank you for making yourself available for attending our thematic discussion on the 2022 review of local government performance in disclosing district land use plan and provincial land pricing framework. This event is being organized by CPU and the UNDP, and this is an opportunity for us to share findings of our review of the local government performance in disclosing district land use plans and provincial land pricing. It also provides an opportunity for us to listen to advice of policy experts and practitioners on policy implications. The review of performance of local governments in disclosure of district land use plans and provincial land pricing framework has been conducted twice, the first time in 2021, and this is the second review. It aims to look for and promote good practices in disclosing land information and provides evidence evidence-based input to discussion of policy reform and enhance implementation of policy. This initiative has been supported and funded by Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and Embassy of Ireland and UNDP in Vietnam. And we would like to introduce our participants, Ms. Nguyễn Thanh Phương, the Deputy Director in charge of CPU, Madam Ramla Khalidi, the resident representative of UNDP in Vietnam. And we also welcome our distinguished panelists today with their rich expertise in the topics of discussion today. Professor Đặng Hùng Võ, former Vice Minister of Natural Resources and Environment. Madam Hoàng Thị Vân Anh, former DG of Legal Affairs Land Administration of Monterey. Dr. Bế Trung Anh, permanent member of the Ethnicity Council of the National Assembly. Professor Doãn Hồng Nhung, senior lecturer of Law Faculty of Hanoi National University. Professor Dr. Nguyễn Đăng Dung, Vice Chair of the Law and Democracy Advisory Council and member of Executive Committee of Vietnam Fatherland Front. The event is also being attended by participants from various government agencies, provinces, and international community and media outlets. Regarding the agenda, the thematic discussion will be structured into two parts. First, a presentation of findings from the 2022 review of this performance in disclosure of district land use plans and provincial land pricing frameworks. And second, a panel discussion of the policy implications, particularly for the upcoming amendments to the land law. And a word of note to our participants, please save your questions to the discussion session, or if you are joining online, kindly put your questions in the chat box. Thank you. To start, I would like to invite Madam Ramla Khalidi, the resident representative of UNDP in Vietnam, to deliver her opening remarks. The floor is yours.
Ms. Nguyen Thanh Phong, Deputy Director in charge of the Center for Education Promotion and Empowerment of Women, participants and representatives of central, state, and ministries, provinces and districts across Vietnam, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, both those present in the room here with us and those online, welcome to this important meeting on the performance of local governments in the disclosure of district land use plans and provincial land pricing frameworks in 2022. Today's discussion is timely, as the 2013 land law is under revision and available for public consultation. Official reports available at the National Assembly suggest that approximately 7 out of 10 complaints and petitions received by relevant state agencies at all levels are related to land issues. Information asymmetry about local land plans and land pricing frameworks is one of the key triggers for land-related complaints, especially when there are changes to land use planning by local governments and when land seizures and compensation are involved. Under the 2013 land law and the 2016 law on access to information, local land plans and land pricing frameworks must be publicized at all levels and online. In reality, citizens' access to this information, though, remains limited. Findings from our POPI survey have shown that every year, less than 20% of respondents are aware of local land plans, and less than 40% know about local land pricing frameworks. In particular, the 2021 POPI findings by province show that the percentage of citizens with knowledge about the 2021 land plans ranged from 5 to 20%. Additionally, only 42% of the respondents were aware of provincial land pricing frameworks, and less than 4% said they had an opportunity to provide comments on draft local land plans. The 2021 POPI findings are similar and will be shared on the 12th of April at the official national launch. These findings suggest that inadequate transparency in land planning and acquisition schemes, combined with low state-defined land pricing, might be at the root of the high number of complaints and petitions in the area of land administration. International good practices show that when land-related information is disclosed in open and transparent manner, and citizens have the opportunity to discuss draft land plans and price frameworks, the risk of corruption and the prevalence of land conflicts are better controlled. And as a result, citizens' trust in local government increases. To support provinces enhance access to land information for citizens and improve land governance, the Centre for Education, Promotion and Empowerment of Women, CPU, and UNDP, with technical support from real-time analytics, have been conducting an empirical research initiative called Action Research to Enhance Citizens' Access to Land Information. And we've been doing this since July 2021. Our research initiative aims to contribute to improving land governance by reviewing public access to information about annual land use plans and land price frameworks as issued by provincial and district governments in all 63 provinces on an annual basis. Collecting and making publicly available access to the district land use plans and provincial price frameworks on the Land Transparency landing page. Testing requests for land information at provincial and district levels as regulated by Ordinance 34 on grassroots democracy, the 2013 Land Law, and the 2016 Law on Access to Information. And finally, providing policy and practical recommendations to central and local authorities on improving access to land information and land transparency. Ladies and gentlemen, you will hear more about these research and their findings from our presenters later today. However, I'd like to share 3 key findings from the 2022 review, which I believe can inform the discussion today. First, the increase in the number of provinces disclosing provincial land pricing frameworks on their local government portals is encouraging. Out of the 63 provinces, 41 provinces disclosed information in 2022. That's up from 27 in 2021, so up 14 provinces. Second, out of 705 districts, the number of districts disclosing annual land plans on district local government portals has also increased by about 7%, from 337 in 2021 to 389 in 2022. While this is a significant increase, we obviously see the potential for even more improvement in the years to come. And third, only 49% have disclosed their 2021 to 2030 master plans on their websites. We hope to see all districts share their master plans in 2023 when we conduct the review again. We hope that the findings discussed today will provide evidence-based data for central and local authorities to evaluate local government's performance in ensuring access to land information for all citizens through e-government facilities. The results will also suggest important policy implications for reviewing relevant clauses in the 2013 Land Law, as well as for promoting the implementation of the 2016 Law on Access to Information and the 2022 Law on grassroots democracy implementation in 2023 and beyond. We're honored to have distinguished experts on land governance and access to information on the panel today, and we look forward to hearing their advice on how we can support Vietnam in its effort to promote access to information and to reduce information asymmetry in land governance for all. Finally, I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to CPU and its partners for their collaboration in this important initiative. We also extend our thanks to our development partners, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of Australia and the Embassy of Ireland, for their continued support and funding of this initiative through the POPI Research Programme. I wish you all a productive discussion, and thank you very much. Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you, Ramla. Vâng, tiếp sau đây sẽ là phần trình bày kết quả nghiên cứu đánh giá vòng 2 về công khai thông tin kế hoạch sử dụng đất ở cấp huyện và bảng giá đất ở cấp tỉnh năm 2022.
To review of local government performance in disclosure of district land use plans and provincial land pricing frameworks. The research has been conducted by a team from CPU, and Ms. Lại Thị Vi Anh is going to make the presentation on behalf of the whole team. The floor is yours, Ms. Vi Anh. Welcome to the thematic discussion. On behalf of the research team, we would like to share with you some results and some findings of the 2022 review of local government performance in disclosing district land use plan and provincial land pricing framework. And first, the rationale for the second review. Land-related conflicts have been a burning issue, and according to the report on implementation of the law on citizen reception and settlement of complaints and denunciation between 2016 and 2021, land-related issue account for over 69.5%, and lack of transparency in land use planning and implementation of land use planning is one of the key triggers. And findings of the first review has revealed that only 337 out of 704 districts have disclosed their land use plan on the website, and only 27 out of 63 provinces have disclosed their land pricing framework for the period 2020-2024 on their portal. And in the context of the amendments, the upcoming amendments of the land law being discussed at the National Assembly, we have decided to conduct the second review. And the first objective is to review the citizens' access to land information in all 63 provinces. And the second objective is to develop a landing page to serve as a bridge to official portals on land use plans and pricing, land pricing framework issued by relevant authorities in all 63 provinces. And the third objective is to conduct an empirical research to experiments on the request for land information. And objective 4 is to propose a policy and action recommendation to improve access to land information. Methodology has been similar to the first review. We reviewed legal documents on disclosure of land-related information, and then we review practices of disclosing the 10-year land use master plans and annual land use plan at district level, and practices of disclosing land pricing framework at provincial level on the website of the relevant authorities. And then we experimented requesting for land information by sending letters to the relevant authorities. And finally, we developed and updated the land information portal where citizens could go to and find the information about land use land use plan and the land pricing framework. The legal basis for the review consists of the Land Law 2013 as well as a number of amendments to the planning law and implementation decrees. We also based on the law on access to information and the guiding the regulation to guide the implementation. So there are three types of information that we look for, as you can see in the table. First, the 10-year land use master plans at the district level. Then district people's committee are responsible for compiling and disclosing the information. The master plan is issued by Provincial People's Committee. And here you can also see the disclosure requirements. For the annual land use plan, it is issued by the District People's Committee, and it's also subject to a compulsory disclosure by, and it is issued by and approved by District People's Committee. And for the provincial land pricing framework, the agency responsible for compiling and disclosing is Provincial People Committee, and the same authority responsible for approving the land pricing framework. And the disclosure must be made at the beginning of the period of every 5 years. And in the first review, we only assessed the performance relating to the annual land use plan at the district level and the provincial land pricing framework. But in the 2022, we also reviewed the disclosure relating to the 10-year land use master plan at district level. And the number of agencies reviewed is a total of 705. Implementation method. The first step, we have a 4-step process. So first, we come to their homepage and search for the information in the sections related to land information. For example, their website may have land-related or planning-related, land planning-related sections. If we are not successful, then we move on to step 2 to search for information in other sections or categories. If we are not successful in step 2, then we move to step 3 by searching using the search bar on the home page. And the last step, if we have exhausted all the other 3 steps and were not successful, then we'll go for Google search. And evaluation criteria. First, whether they disclose it or not. If district have disclosed the decision to approve the plan or the map or the records for the plan, that would be recognized as disclosed. For provincial pricing framework, they will be recognized as disclosed if they have the decision approved and disclosed, or if the search functionality in their homepage provide for that information. And we also assessed searchability depending on where, in which step we could find the relevant documents. And then timeliness. These 3 types of documents are subject to different timeline for disclosure. So we'll look at the date of disclosure and to see whether it is, for example, for the master plan, we look at the date of disclosure, whether it is within 15 days of the date of issuance. For the land use plan, we look at the date of disclosure compared to the date of issuance. And for the land pricing framework, we look at the disclosure on the 1st of January of the first year. And the completeness was also assessed. For the pricing framework, there's no clear requirements or explicit requirements about information to be completed, but there are the documentation for the other two documents. And the last criteria is usability. And this is the results. So 65.1% of provinces have disclosed their provincial land pricing framework. 55.2% of districts have disclosed their 2022 land use plan, and 48.9% of districts have disclosed their 2021-2030 land use master plans in their homepage. We also did some comparison with the performance in 2021. As I said earlier, in 2021 review, we only looked at the disclosure of the land use plans and the land pricing framework. And as you can see, we see there have been improvement in the improvement in the performance of both for the district land use plan and the provincial pricing framework. And a note for the provincial land pricing framework that covers the entire period of 2020 and 2024, and 14 more provinces have disclosed as compared to 2021. For the 2021-2030 land use master plans disclosed by districts, 345 out of a total of 705 districts have disclosed their land use master plans. For searchability, in 56.2% districts, we found the information right in the first step. That means they do have a separate, dedicated columns for land information in their website, in their web portal. For example, under the land-related information or planning, or spatial planning information, 20%. For 20% districts, we found the documents in step 2. And 8.4% we could only find the information in Google. We did not find it in their homepage. For usability, 100% of the disclosure information were clear and usable text. Timeliness, on time, that is 105 districts have disclosed the master plans within 15 days after the date of issuance. For completeness, 49.6% of districts have disclosed the full set of documents. So with these 5 criteria, only 53 out of the 705 district government agency met all the 5 or passed all the 5 criteria under review. And 29 dossiers of the 2021-2030 of land use master plans were approved in 2021. And 24 out of these 53, their their land use master plan were approved in 2022. For the 2022 land use plans by district, 389 districts have disclosed, and it has been an improvement. Searchability 64.3%, we could find right in the first step. Usability 100% are clear and usable. Timeliness, well, the performance has been poorer because the 2022 land use plans must be approved before the last day of 2021. So, and also disclosed within 15 days. Only 4 dossiers met or passed the criteria of timeliness, that is timely issuance and timely disclosure. And 155 cases have a full or complete disclosure, that is all documents as required. And 389 districts have disclosed information, but only 1 district have passed all the 5 criteria for the disclosure of 2022 land use plan. And for the disclosure of 2022 land use plan, as well as the provincial pricing framework, we have a cut-off date to ensure comparability with the first review. And as we can see that the cut-off date here is October 6, 2022, and 31 agencies have not been recognized as having disclosed in 2022 because the approval or disclosure was after the October 6th of October, and the latest date when a 2022 land use plan was approved is the 15th of December 2022, and the latest disclosure is 31st of January. And the map shows the performance. The orange one is the performance of disclosure in land use master plan, and the blue one is 2022 land use plan, and we also have the comparison between 2021 and 2022, and we see that has been improved. Regarding the provincial land pricing framework, 41 out of 63 provinces have disclosed their land pricing framework. So we've seen that 14 more provinces have disclosed as compared to 2021. Searchability 53.7%. We could find the information in the first step. 100% passed the usability criteria. Timeliness, only 4 out of the 41. So this one is a summary of the findings and then some observation. After our review of the portal and website review, usually documents on provincial land pricing framework and district land use plan were issued more later than required. And land use plan documentation in most cases were not fully disclosed or just disclosed in a scattered manner. For example, a decision could be found in one entry, another entry provides the map, and another entry provides the text itself. And in some cases, authorities use non-standard acronyms, so it's really difficult to understand if we just look at the name of the file. And some file formats are not common for the ordinary users. And for some localities, the search engine, the search functionalities do not work effectively. So in a number of cases, the search functions did not help them to locate the documents in the most efficient manner. And in a number of cases, they have integrated information portal on planning. However, as they do not, because they have the software for doing so, but they do not display the legal basis, so it's really difficult to validate. And in a number of cases, when we look at the documents, we see that the seals can be separated from the text, or zoomed out, or zoomed in, or deleted. And I think this is just like a technical issues that authorities should be able to address. One agency even have 2 different information portals. Usually the first version ended with the name of the district and .gov and .com, and the second is district name and then provincial name and .gov and .com. So probably that has to do with the changes in the regulations on the domain name of their website, and that's why we found 2 versions of the portals or website. But that caused difficulties to user because they don't know which one would be the official. In a number of cases, when we try to get access to the information, the website requires us to log in to register an account or to obtain a password. For example, the officials posted in Google Drive but did not grant access. And in a number of cases, we see some conflicts between the date of approval and the decision, and the date of approval of the decision and the date of disclosure. For example, date of approval as displayed on the text was the 1st of January or January 2022, but the date of disclosure showed an earlier date. And such conflicts have made us unable to determine whether the disclosure has been timely or not. And concerning the experiments, last year we sent out a request for information on the district level land use plan in 2021, and this year it's the 2022 district level land use plan. We divided the districts into 5 random groups with 5 different sender roles, and we also have 1 control groups which did not receive the information, did not receive the request, and the group were further divided into the subgroups. The first subgroup received the letter of request under the as prescribed in Decree 13. Quoting the law on access to information, and the second group, the letter quoted the land law 2013. And this is the results. Responses have been improved. As you can see, with more districts provided the information, rejection has reduced, but non-response, we've seen an increase. 402 non-response in 2021, and 2022 it's 415. When we look closer at the responses, out of 146 districts sent or 146 letters receive a response. 108 response provided information, 6 responses rejected, and 32 responses give other information. So out of the 108 responses providing the information, 50% of them provided instructions how to search for the documents on their web portal. 47.2% provided the documents and information, and only 2.8% did both. That is, they both provided the information and the instructions, and also gave the instructions for searching the information. So only 2.8%. For 6 responses of rejection, 4 of the rejections were made via telephone, and 4 were made in written form. And the reasons for rejection is information has been made public, or due to lack of basis for consideration, or they said that the request for information had wrong purpose or did not meet the requirements, or they said that the letter of request did not follow the sample or the form specified in Circular 34, or they asked the requester to come to meet the authorities, so for the 2 written rejections, 1 was made in using the form of notice of rejection under Decree 2018. And 32 of other responses, what did they say in those responses? They said that we have referred the request to another agency for follow-ups, but we did not receive any follow-up response from them. Or they said that they are going to send through the email, but we did not receive the emails as a follow-up, or they just briefly mentioned that the information has been disclosed at the office, or they asked the requester to come to the District Bureau for Natural Resources and Environment to obtain the information. And this is from Yên Thế, Bắc Giang. And you see, that is the request for information. And this is the notice of rejection. In Yên Thế District, rejected in both reviews. In 2021, in their letter of rejection, they said that they were not the agency who created or who originated the document. So please send your request to the agency who originated the information. And they cited the Clause 1, Article 9 of the Law on Access to Information. That is the provincial, which means the provincial authorities should provide. So last year we also mentioned that this article may be cited by agency who hold the information for rejecting. And this year they also rejected. And they said that the reason for rejection is the information is already posted, and then they provided the link. So it's a letter of rejection. But if you look at the accessibility to information, they provide the link. So the letter, the reason for rejection is also stated in the law on access to information. If the document has been posted publicly, then they may reject to provide the information. And about the sender role, ordinary citizens receive the highest rate of response, positive response. And 22.1% of requests from ordinary citizens got a positive response. And you can see that the rate was lower for real estate agents, lawyers, researchers. No rejection to researchers and ordinary citizens. You have rejections to lawyers and real estate agents. And when we look at the citation of the law in the letter for request, you can see here that the subgroup that cite the land law receive a more positive response. But there are two cases. We had with the subgroup of citing land law, the land law. In one case, the officers who received the request said that the letter for request did not conform with the template prescribed by Circular 34. And another case, they said that there's no prescribed procedures for providing information in this case, and they refer us to the government public services for providing planning and land information in the provincial website. Regarding the attitude, most civil servants had polite attitude, except for one who had unfriendly attitude towards researchers. A number of civil servants have worked very thoroughly to make sure that the written response reached the requester. For example, the mail was returned by post, and then the civil servant contacted the requester via email and explained explained the situation. And most agencies send full documentation instead of only sending the written approval. Some civil servants prefer contacting and interacting with citizens through Zalo, and no requirement for fees. In some cases, the civil servant explained about the cost in case the documents were scanned and sent to the requester in hard copies. Most civil servants did not use their official emails to respond to citizens. They made use of their personal emails instead of official emails. Some good practices at provincial level. Bắc Giang and Phú Yên, 100% of their districts disclosed the 2021-2030 land use master plan. 100% of districts in Ninh Thuận and Kon Tum disclosed their 2022 annual land use plan. Sóc Trăng, Quảng Trị, and Trà Vinh disclosed their provincial land pricing frameworks on their provincial government portal on time. Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu has a dedicated column for land information access that makes information searching more convenient. In many cases, the authorities did not have a dedicated column for land information. At the other extreme, many authorities have multiple columns for posting land-related information, which also make searching difficult. But Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu has a systematized land information access category, and this has been very facilitative for to search for information. Some good practices at district level. As we said, only one district have passed all the 5 criteria. That's Than Uyên, Tân Châu, Tây Ninh. Tân Châu, Tây Ninh. And they met all the 5 criteria. And Điện Bàn district disclosed systematically district level annual land use plans since 2015. So when we went to Điện Bàn district website, we found out that all the district level annual land use plan from 2015 have been disclosed in one column. And Tây Hòa province attached a QR code in disclosure announcement. So they have noticed that we are disclosing the information on the annual land use plan, and then they provided a QR code where the user used that scan the QR code and could get access to the full documentation. Yên Thế, Bắc Giang sent the notice of rejection, but they abided by the regulation on rejection, because the other districts, they did not follow the required templates for notice of rejection under the 2016 law on information access. Ba Bể district, Đức Cơ district, Nghĩa Lộ district, and Crono district use various ways to support and make sure that the information reached to the requester. So, for example, they contact via telephone and ask if the requester, which would be the preferred way for the requester to receive the information. And then after they send, they call and check whether the requester have received the information. And lastly, our recommendation, it's important to include the procedure on providing information upon request under the 2016 law on access to information in the full set of administrative procedures of all sectors and fields. Because as I said, in a number of cases, the authorities said that it is not part of the administrative procedures, and it did not follow the form stipulated in Circular 34. And the second is to add regulation on the date, the required date of approval for the land use master plan to ensure the timeliness. And also, it's important to stipulate that information holding agencies are responsible for providing information upon request. they cited Clause 1, Article 9 of the law on access to information for their rejection. And we also recommend keeping the same deadline for disclosing land information, that is within 15 days. Currently, the proposed amendments suggest a 30-day period. So we recommend keeping the same deadline rather than extending it to 30 days. And it's important to require the authorities to maintain permanently the disclosed information on their web portal. As Vietnam is promoting digital government, it's quite possible, it's feasible for them to maintain the disclosed information for a long time. And you look at the district with good practices, they can you can find the land use plan since 2015. And also it's important to stipulate the requirements on the interface, the sections, and the information disclosure methods. One of the challenge for the researcher is the broad variety in the interface and the presentation or format of the web portal from district to district, from province to province, or the structure of their website. And it's important to further disseminate the law on access to information to the government officers and provide public education to citizens as well. And it's important to develop a section called Access to Information on Local Government Web Portal. This is required under the 2016 Access to Information Law. Some provinces and districts have done so, but they did not systemize the kind of information disclosed. Some have prepared a table of information to be disclosed, like a list of information disclosed, but we can't find the information in that column. We could not find the information in that column. And it's also important to approve the such functionality in the government web portals to make sure that disadvantaged or minority groups could access to the information. And this is also part of the requirements under a circular set forth by the Ministry of Communication and Information. And finally, an introduction to the land information portal. And my colleagues, Lady Thu Trang, would share with you about the land information portal. Good morning, my name is Lê Trang. I'm the program officer at CPU, and on behalf of the team from CPU, we would like to introduce to you the portal, the information portal. With the website here, you can go to the information portal to check. And this is a part of our project of this initiative. And we started our construction of the website of the web portal since 2021. And if you attended the first the thematic discussion on the first review, you may be familiar with this. But in this second round of review, we further improve the web portal so that researcher, the public, and other interested groups, they could utilize the website to support their work. So there have been changes in both the functionalities and the interface. So one of the most important functionality is the map that shows the performance of land information disclosure as introduced by V. So provincial land pricing framework, the district 10-year land master plan, and the annual land use plan at district level. And here you see a brief introduction about this research initiative and an introduction of the website. And then down here, if you scroll down, you can find and download the research reports. For example, the full report of the research of 2022 and the summary report of 2023. That is for the period, for the second review in 2022. The full report will be made available after this workshop. And here you see some information about our partner in implementing this initiative. And let's go to the interactive map section, which display the performance of land information disclosure. So provincial land pricing framework as an example. You can see here, this is Vietnam's map at the provincial level. You see that some provinces are in different color, orange and light yellow. So you have orange and you have light yellow. What does the color tell you? What kind of information you can find? If you look at the menu here on the left column, we have different layers of information available. At least 2 layers of information. First, our research result about disclosure of provincial land pricing framework for the period of 2020-2024. So you see the actual state, the current state of land pricing framework disclosure. And these provinces have disclosed. You see, in the provinces in orange, they are the one who have disclosed. And if you click, you go to, well, I'll try that later. When I click on the province, can you switch off this map? We have the function to switch on and switch off the map. Now I would like to open the 2022 map. Yes, switch off the 2021 map and go to 2022 map. So you can see the performance of provincial land pricing framework disclosure. Some provinces are in darker results and some are in lighter color, because here we have to review already. The lighter one district are the new provinces who have disclosed the information. So these are the provinces who did not disclose in 2021, but they have done so in 2022. And you can also see as we overlay the map with different shade of colors, then you can make a comparison. So we off for 2022 and then on again. Yes. So you see where the improvements are. You see the new provinces who have disclosed their provincial land pricing framework in 2022. As Vi Anh said, 14 more provinces have disclosed. So that provides you with a comparison. And now let's dig down deeper by searching for the information of a selected province, Đà Nẵng, for example. So when you click on a province, a pop-up window will show up. And here you see the link to the web portal of the provincial authorities where they disclosed the land pricing framework, or it may be an error notice. If there is an error displayed, then we have to contact the local authorities so that they can fix that. And then you see the satisfaction survey. Please go to the link. Yes, that's the website for Đà Nẵng to disclose their information. So it takes you directly to the link where the provincial land pricing framework is disclosed. Đà Nẵng is among provinces who have good practices. They have a very detailed search engine for land pricing framework. You can key in, for example, the name of the street, and you can find the filtered information. You can have filtered information, and also the citation of legal instruments for the search engines. For example, decision issued by Đà Nẵng PPC in 2021. Yeah, the legal basis for the search engine. Please be back to the map. And then a website feedback. This is a short survey to find out the satisfaction of the researcher or the user regarding the disclosure of information. So we designed a 4-question survey. For example, rating of the completeness or scoring the completeness of the information. The feedback form, evaluation form is being in the pilot stage, and probably the information obtained from the survey would be used for our research analysis as well. Another functionality here, which is still underway or under construction, that is search. Yes, at the bottom left. So instead of clicking into individual provinces, you can type the name of the province and then you can go to the link of the web portal of the province. But this functionality is under construction. The construction is still in progress. And so these are the improvements as compared to the web portal last year. Last year in our presentation, we also showed you the map, but it's a static map, not an interactive. But here in 2022, you have the interactive map, and you can compare results over a year. Please be back to the main page, the home page, and we'll develop the maps corresponding to the disclosure performance of the other two documents. That is the annual land use plan and the district land master plan. These are still under construction, and we hope it will be finalized soon. And here you can go, just go here and click the link. It's not yet in the type of in the format of the map, but it's a table, a tabulated form of all the 705 districts with the links that take you to the information portal of the district. So we expect to turn this into the interactive map as you've seen. So that's a brief introduction of the web portal, the information portal. And hopefully this will be helpful to you in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Lại Thị Lan Vi and Ms. Lê Trang. And that brings us to the open panel discussion on land information disclosure and implications for the policy reform. And here we'll have two facilitators, Ms. Nguyễn Thanh Phương, Deputy Director of CPU, and Ms. Đỗ Thanh Huyền, the Public Policy Analyst of UNDP, and our panelist will be Ms. Hoàng Thị Vân Anh from the Legal Affairs and Land Administration of Monterey, Dr. Bế Trung Anh, the permanent member of Ethnic Council of the National Assembly, Madam Doãn Hồng Nhung, senior lecturer at Law Faculty of the Hanoi National University, Professor Nguyễn Đăng Dung of the Law and Democracy Advisory Council. Yes. Please take your seat. Well, our special thanks to Vi and Chang for their very impressive presentation with a lot of useful information as a food for thought in our thematic discussion today. I think it's a very precious opportunity for us to be here and to share perspectives from our top experts, both in policy making and in implementation. And we are so happy that Mr. Dung, Nhung, Vân Anh, and Trung Anh have agreed to be our panelists today. And unfortunately, Professor Dr. Đặng Hùng Võ had some health issue today, so he excused for not being here. we hope that we'll be able to have another chance to discuss with him in the future as the amended land law is being discussed in public. I think the discussion today is well timing. Before we start the panel discussion, we'd like to share with you what's been done so far in 2022 review. We've also introduced the land information web portal to the citizens. And in the PAPI, we introduced this to the respondents, and the feedback have been very positive, because after we introduced it in PAPI interviews, and we compare the number of visits after our introduction, we feel very encouraged that we have very positive feedbacks, and that gives us the motivation to work harder in promoting access to information, particularly related to land information. And let's start our panel discussion. First, Dr. Hoàng Thị Vân Anh. She's the former DG of Policy and Legal Affairs Department of the Land Administration of Monterey. Ms. Vân Anh was involved in drafting the different versions of the 2013 land law, and she's also been involved in the drafting of the amendments to the land law 2013. So with your experience in this, what are your comments on the performance of district and provincial governments in disclosing land information as revealed by our presenters? And in your opinion, what are the factors, or what are the contributory causes to such performance? And with the land law being amended, what kind of sanctions, what kind of enforcement action should be introduced to ensure that relevant authorities comply with the requirement? Good morning. I have the pleasure to work for the land administration and been involved in drafting the land law 2013, and I also involved in drafting the amendments to the to the 2013 land law. Though I must say upfront that I've started my retirement since early this year. Regarding the research findings, I'm very impressed, and that's a lot of useful information, because it gives us an insight into how the requirements of the law are actually being implemented. So the law set forth the requirement, but some provinces, some districts are performing much better than others. And poor performers still accounted for a significant share, I must say, and that's sad. And what are the causes of the situation? What have resulted in such poor performance or unsatisfactory performance of information disclosure? I think it would be I think it would be greater if the research digs down further into the root causes of the poor performance. But from my experience, I suppose that there may be several causes. First, when the government, the national government finalized the information or issued the pricing framework, it's already late December 2022, and 46 out of 63 provinces have disclosed the provincial land pricing framework. That's shocking. I mean, because the land pricing framework is being used every day for example, levying charges or stamp duties and other purposes. And in a number of cases, I think the lack of proper awareness about the importance of such disclosure may be another cause of the poor performance. Also, the lack of enforcement action, sanctions, penalties, because public officials or government officials, if they fail to comply with their obligations, then they will be subject to, in theory, they will be subject to some disciplinary actions or enforcement actions, but usually the whole process is very lengthy. So, and that's why the whole process for considering the disciplinary action is very lengthy, and in many cases they don't pay attention to that. And also the laws and regulations may not be clear enough or specific enough about the kind of documentation and the format of the information to be disclosed. But I think the findings of this research are really helpful for policy making in their process of amending or enhancing the land law. So as amendments to the land law are being discussed, what type of requirements or enforcement action should be included in the amendments to ensure the compliance with the disclosure obligations. And the research team has made two group of recommendations. One group have to do with legal provisions and the interactions between the land law and the law on access to information. The law on access to information set forth the general principle, but the land law is a specialized law, so it should be more specific about the type of information to be provided or to be disclosed, if any fees will be charged, or the ways for the methods for providing the information. The deadline for disclosing information currently being extended. Currently, it is proposed that the deadline for closing should be extended to 30 days. And I totally agree with the research team that we should keep it as it is, 15 days. And one of the cause of the late disclosure regarding the master planning has to do with the provision of the land master planning. Resolution 751 of the National Assembly set forth the deadlines for the provincial master planning. And you know that it's preparing the master planning is kind of like cascading. And if the provinces delay in having their land master plans approved, then that would cause subsequent delays to the later stage. And in addition to the recommendations made by the research team, I think it's important to make sure that the deadlines, the law should set some deadlines for the master planning to be approved at different levels. And because the approval of a lower level master plan would affect the remaining time for the lower level government master plans. And sometimes more clarity should be shared. For example, the type of documentations to be disclosed. And according to the land law, the proposed amendments to the land law also give greater clarity to how non-compliance by authorities will be handled. For example, if the review or inspection authorities identify any non-compliance by government officials, they can refer to the relevant authorities for handling, but it's still being discussed. Well, thank you, Ms. Hoàng Thị Vân Anh. I've also taken a look at the draft of the amendments, the proposed amendments to the land law. And one of the proposed change have to do with the extended deadline of 30 days. So it's really important to ensure consistency across different pieces of law. And in the presentation by V. Anh, there's some example. There were cases where the land use plan of the current year were disclosed in the last month, even last day of the year. So what do you think about this, Ms. Nhung? Well, Ms. Vân Anh has mentioned some causes of the poor performance in land information disclosure. I think I will ask Mr. Nguyễn Đăng Dung, who has been a member of the drafting team for the law on access to information. What are your comments on the performance of local governments in disclosing land information? And what should we do in order to promote the oversight role of Vietnam Fatherland Front and its member in implementing disclosure requirements? Thank you very much for inviting me to this thematic discussion. Land has always been a heated issue, and one of the reasons why it is a heated issue is Vietnam only allowed one type of ownership, land ownership, that is ownership by the whole population, while other countries, they allowed more diversity forms of ownership. But I mean, a lot of problems or gaps could be addressed by a better disclosure. Private ownership or multiple type of ownership without transparency and disclosure would not work as well. So the role of information disclosure is really important, is tremendous. And there are some gaps between the law to access to information and the law, the land law. The law on access to information is kind of like a general law. Yeah, it sets forth the general principles only. But when it comes to the specific areas, for example, land issue, then the land law as a specialized law would prevail if there is any consistency. And I also agree that keeping the deadlines at 15 days is much better than extending it to 30 days, because disclosure and transparency would help to combat against speculation as well. Concerning the law on access to information, it's relatively new. And it's relatively new to many civil servants. Yeah, because we have been overwhelmed by the so-called state secrets for so long. When you reject the information request, the likelihood for making a mistake is small, but when you provide the information upon request, the likelihood for making mistakes as it concerns classified information or state secrets is higher. And Ms. Vân Anh has mentioned that it's shocking when see only 40-something provinces have disclosed their provincial land pricing framework. It seems to have a gap between the access to information by citizen and the information available to government agency, right? So do you know the pricing applies to your houses? I don't know. I don't know the Hanoi provincial land pricing framework. I don't know. I don't know. So I mean, the availability of information to the general public, and also the awareness of the citizens about the availability of that information is important. So as we are transitioning from a planned economy to a market economy, from a state secret regime to a greater openness, to greater clarity, a lot of work needs to be done. And information is wealth, is the wealth. So I mean, if sometimes you have the information, you can make a whole fortune out of it. So I just said to Vân Anh that the disclosure of information, making the information available to the public is really important to, and it can be very helpful in addressing a number of land-related issues now. And I really like the idea of the web portal. So, for example, if I click to Hanoi and I can find the land pricing framework applicable to my land lot, to my house, that would be great. That would be great from the perspective of the user. Concerning the role of the Vietnam Fatherland Front, the Vietnam Fatherland Front has an oversight role in promoting the implementation of both law and that applies to Vietnam Fatherland Front organizations from central level to the grassroots level. So if the role is brought into play, it will help us to address a lot of problems that we are faced with in land conflicts. Yes, thank you, Professor Dung. I agree, I kind of agree with you that the law on access to information is relatively new. And from our observation, I think changes are taking place. And increasingly, local authorities have developed their mindset to respond to the needs of the citizen. And we've seen their efforts to construct the website to disclose the information. And as it is a relatively new law, it will take time for authorities to get used to it and know how to do it. But then it's also the role of the oversight role exercised by stakeholders. So if Fatherland Front organization include their oversight of disclosure performance in their annual plan, that would be great, right? Yes, thank you very much. And that's really helpful for us to understand the situation from the perspective of access to information law. And I would like to address the next question to Professor Doãn Thị Hồng Nhung. She's interested in how to control the exercise of powers by state authorities, state agency. We are not we're just talking about the obligations of the local government authorities and central government agency in disclosing information, land-related information, and how to control, how to contain the power exercised by authorities when it comes to land-related issues, and also the how to cope with the gaps between the current land pricing frameworks and the market prices. And Ms. Doãn Thị Hồng Nhung also have some practical experience working with the real estate association as well. So, and I also received some questions about this from our online participants. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much for inviting me to this thematic discussion. And just to share with you, I just completed a research project on controlling the state powers in land seizure. The research project has been conducted across all the three regions, the north, the center, and the south of Vietnam, and has been endorsed by the General Government Inspectorates. And training regarding findings of the research have been implemented as well, have been delivered as well. For good governance, especially in land issues, it's really important to control the exercise of state powers in land seizures. And if you look at all the scandalous criminal cases or corruption cases or land cases in recent years. You see the gross breaches of the legitimate rights and interests of citizens, and also it revealed these cases also revealed the information, the problems caused by the lack of information regarding the land pricing framework. You see that the price differential of a land lot before a project, a development project is announced, and after a housing development project is announced, maybe kind of 50% to 700 times, 50% times or 700 times. So that explains the rent-seeking behavior. The lack of fairness and in access to information have caused disastrous consequences. As the Vice Chair of the Legal Affairs Division of the Real Estate Association, I found out that there are signs of corruption and money laundering in the land areas, because disclosing the requirement for land-related information disclosure on the website has been problematic. Some have disclosed fully, but many of them have not disclosed in a full manner, and some of them did not disclose at all. And also the timing of disclosure is critical. Yeah, whether you have disclosed it or not is one thing, but what matters is when the disclosure is made. I totally agree with Dr. Dung that once the information is disclosed, then we can have the oversight role of various stakeholders. But it's really important to make sure that the disclosure is made in a timely manner, and this should be clearly carved into the land law, and later on to the amendments to the law on inspection and oversight. It's a fair right, a legitimate right of an individual to know what price applies to their property, especially when the land is seized and acquired for development purposes. See that over the years, we never seen a downward trend of in the land prices. And in many cases, the value have been inflated. For example, the violation in the land auction. Some cases you have the auction price awarded at 2.4 billion dongs per square meters. That's ridiculous, right? And we are expecting some adjustment in the real estate market moving forward. After such overstated or exaggerated or inflated land pricing, and some provinces and districts are doing good practices as well. which can be replicated in other provinces. And I'm happy to see some improvement in the disclosure performance, which means that authorities are paying greater attention to their disclosure obligations. And the need for information is an essential need. But authorities are performing at a different level. Some provinces or districts where they have much lesser volume of transaction than the stability of the planning and the pricing is greater than though in those places where you see much more volume of transactions. And it's important that provinces and districts review themselves, their performance in information disclosure. The requirement to control the exercise of state power has been embedded in a number of policy documents of the state of the state and of the Communist Party, and we hope that next year we'll see much better performance, because we need to train them, we need to educate, to reach out to them so that they know what is the level of performance in land information disclosure. And we may need to provide them with some help so that they can improve performance. And we hope that instead of one district who have passed all the 5 criteria, then we'll have more next year. Thank you, Professor Nhung, for your enthusiastic sharing of your research initiative. And from my experience with PAPI, as also mentioned by Ramla, less than 20% of respondents said that they have access to this information. That's a sad figure, right? This disappointing figure, because in order to effectively to control the exercise of power, you need to have more information disclosed to the public. And this is a both side problem, from the demand side and from the supply side. On the supply side, government authorities haven't done a good job in disclosing the information, either offline or online. And also, we should address the problems on the demand side. How to educate the general public in getting greater access to the information. So I think demand side and supply side, the problems should be addressed. On the demand side, sometimes citizens, they are in need of information, but they can't, they don't know where to go to. And on the supply side, authorities are struggling as well. Well, yes, last year we've worked with, we've been to a number of provinces. For example, we've been to villages in Hà Giang where they do not yet have electricity connection. And though the local communities have tried hard to promote access to information, but no electricity, no internet, and sometimes lack of literacy as well. So I would like to have a question to Ms. Bế Trung Anh. How can we support citizen access to information in general and to land information in particular, given all the special circumstances described? Thank you for the question. I've listened very attentively to the discussion. I must say that I'm not an expert. But at the National Assembly, I am part of the team who are conducting some assessment of a review of the impact of the proposed amendments on the amendment to the land law. Well, electricity may not be a big problem. Lack of literacy, well, actually we may not be the key cause to the lack of access to information. Professor Zoom, for example, he's a well-educated guy, but he's not aware of the land pricing applicable to his landlord, his houses. So I think the problems may rest in other aspects. So we need to look at the different aspects of the problem. Well, we often say land price, but actually it's the price of the land use right. When we say land price, we tend to think that land is owned by us, but actually we only have the land use right. So the price is the land use right price. And here the land law interacts with a number of other legislation, including the the law on access to information. And in the proposed amendments, I think there are nothing about how to promote access to land information, especially for ethnic groups, ethnic minority groups, because land is complicated, right? Even for us, right? When you buy an apartment, you sign a contract of kind of like several dozens pages. And even when you are well educated, you don't want to read it, right? And then how about the ethnic minority groups? So here, it's really important to make sure that the information goes smoothly from where the information is created to where it is received. I know that the information, when it goes from the original place of creation to the place where it is received, to the person who received the information may be lost during that process. So when we work with the drafting team of the amendments to the land law, we mentioned repeatedly the need to provide support to ethnic minority people, particularly when it comes to when they enter into a transaction about regarding their land. It's really important to dig down further how the support should be. Probably this might not be able to articulate it in the land law, but it should be articulated in implementation regulations. Thank you, Mr. Chung Anh. We have been working with Mr. Bế Chung Anh for many years, and we understand that he has been very dedicated to the protection of the rights and interests of ethnic minority groups. One of the key question here is how to make the information accessible or available to ethnic group. We've worked with the PAPI research teams and to find out about the access to public online, particularly online public services for ethnic group people. I mean, even for us, we are struggling. So it's understandable why it is so difficult for ethnic minority groups to have access to the information. And we are trying our best to expand, to ensure the access to information and government services in Đắk Rông, Quảng Trị, Đắk Rông Commune, Quảng Trị, and Bắc Quang, Xí Mình, Hà Giang. We hope that the pilot exercise will provide better access to information to the citizen and better e-services to the government. And we hope that such a pilot exercise will be replicated by the Vietnam's authorities. And it's really important that local authorities themselves learn from their peers and improve the access to information. For example, having a mobile team that provide the information to citizens instead of having a fixed location where the citizens have to come to and request for information. And now we'd like to open the floor for questions from the audience, both online and offline and on-site. And probably a participant here, Mr. Nam. Microphone. Thank you, Vi Anh, for very really excellent research. And there are some similarities between this research and PAPI. Here you look at the supply of information, and PAPI look at the experience of citizens in accessing to information. So are you going to dig deeper to see the relation, the correlation between good suppliers of information and the feedback of the user? Because some provinces and districts are implementing good practices. So what are the feedbacks and how are their performance is assessed by PAPI respondents? And how long, is the remaining time for this research initiative? Well, thank you, Mr. Nam, for the question. The correlation or the relationship analysis between this research and PAPI will be conducted later. And hopefully, after the launch of PAPI, then we'll see the impact of the efforts made by good performers in land information disclosure. And how long this research initiative will last? Well, it will remain, it will continue at least as long as with the PAPI research initiative or program, and we hope that one day the map will be covered with the dark brown or dark orange or the dark blue. We hope that district, provincial authorities are really listening to the feedback from the community and take action or respond. Thank you, Mr. Nam. And there's a question from the Zoom participant addressed to Ms. Vân Anh. The law on access to information stipulate a deadline of 5 days, while the land law stipulate a deadline of 15 days. Which deadline do you think should be more appropriate or should be more suitable? 5 days according to the land to the access to information law, or 15 days according to the land law? And is it a good suggestion or good idea to disclose the land pricing framework at the outlets where people conduct transactions? Thank you for the question. The first, the deadline for disclosure. This have to do with the master plan and the plans, why it is 5 days or 15 days or 30 days. Because once the document is approved, it will take some time for the authorities to compile user-friendly information for disclosure. Well, if they just disclose the full text of the decision or the map of the master plan, it's not user-friendly. It's not friendly to the user information. So 30 days period is required because they need to reproduce the information to make it more reader-friendly. But I also think that it's important to disclose as early as they could, because that would help to prevent the any arising problems. And in your presentation, you've mentioned some cases where they rejected the request for information. And here and they said that they are not the one who originate the information, so they can't provide the information. So I think it's important to make it clear or make it explicit that those who hold the information, the authorities who hold the information, maybe a government agency, maybe a public service delivery unit, or So we should think of the broader picture. Who could be, who may be in the position to provide the best services to the citizen, rather than sticking to one or two specified entities. Thank you. I would like to build on that point to ask a question to Professor Dung. The law on access to information specify that the agency who originate the information is responsible for providing the information, and then that's how the ball is passed between government agency, because in many cases they reject the request for information because they said they did not originate. So the law on access to information clearly made it clear that the agency who created or originates the information is responsible for providing the information. And I think that's a very common practice in other countries as well. But I think in the specific context of Vietnam, we may need to think of the broader picture. I totally agree with Vân Anh that the more entities be involved in providing the information, the easier and the quicker the information is provided. Yes, sometimes, for example, for me, I just find the information from the web portal of a firm, a law firm, rather than local government authorities. And welcome to Ms. Ngô Thu Hà, Director of CPU. And Ha wants to share some from her perspective. Thank you, Huyền. And thanks to the panelists for sharing their opinion. And greetings to Vân Anh. And I just want to make a point to Vân Anh as a member of the drafting team. Hopefully my comments will be useful to the drafter in addressing the gaps between the law on access to information and the land law. We've talked about the time required for the government authorities to reproduce or to recreate the information in a friendly manner. The law on access to information requires authorities to provide full, complete, accurate, and timely information. If the government agency reproduce the information or recreate the information like an editor, how do we make sure that the information is accurate or is complete? So that's the first question. And the second question is the law on access to information clearly states that no fee is charged on providing the information. So no charge on the creation of information or provision of information. Only the charge or the fees apply to the copying or photocopying or scanning. But the land law, it seems to me that provides for the ability to charge when they provide the information. And another issue is if the only the agency who originates the information is responsible for providing the information, there should be some infrastructure or transmission line or network for the agency for government agency to exchange or to share the information in order to provide or to facilitate access to information. And also I think at the time of the law on access to information, efforts have been made by the drafter to ensure that the citizen get the information in a timely and complete and accurate manner. So just to raise the question to Vân Anh, to Professor Dung and other panelists, because that would be very important for us in understanding the key, addressing these key issues. Thank you, Ms. Ha. Once when the land law was enacted, our department was also tasked with developing or formulating regulations on implementation, 2 degrees on implementation. However, so far the degrees haven't passed the approval yet. The 2 degrees aimed to ensure consistency with the law on access to information. Certain type of information are subject to compulsory disclosure. For example, the land use plan, the master plan, the pricing framework. So in that case, you can charge a fee for non-compulsory information disclosure. For example, data, figures, statistics to be provided by public service delivery. They can charge some fee. So I think it's quite appropriate, and that's in line with the law on access to information. So it depends on the nature or the type of information to be provided. Another question about the deadline. When we draft the amendments to the land law, it's really important to ensure the consistency with other legislations as well. So, I mean, our deadlines should be consistent with the law on access to information. I'm sure that the Law Committee of the National Assembly, when they conduct the review, they will look for inconsistency. Of course, at the review round at the government level, we try to identify the inconsistency ourselves before submitting it to the National Assembly. Concerning the focal agency for providing information, professionalism is very important. In Australia experience, they have Landgate. It's a private sector entity, but they receive the information transmitted from relevant authorities to provide to citizens and stakeholders. But it's not just about setting up the information infrastructure at the beginning. It's also maintaining and upgrading it, and they can charge some fees depending on the type of the information. So I think we should adopt that mindset. Instead of thinking everything would be subsidized by the government budget, we should think about we should have more service-oriented mentality. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vân Anh. I seen 2 hands raised. Mr. Long, please. And then Ms. Hương. Thank you, Huyền, for allowing me an opportunity to speak. First, I think the community's interest in land information is very high. And the public discussions about the land law, I just wonder whether CPU and UNDP have taken a look at that, whether you consider the public discussions or feedbacks regarding the land law. And a question to Vân Anh. When do you expect Vietnam to have kind of like a land gate information portal? Will that be possible in Vietnam? The land gate, like Australian case experience? And a question to the research team. I agree with Vân Anh that we should care more. Well, I think this research is highly meaningful, but we should dig down further to the root problems. Why the performance has been poor in information disclosure, particularly at the provincial level? I think that should be the final destination of the research, rather than just looking at that giving a snapshot of the situation of the performance. CPU researchers have mentioned their experiments with 4 different sender roles. I don't know if you look at these target groups in practice. I mean, whether the level of interest from each interest group would be different. Thank you, Ms. Long. First, the scope of the research. The last 2 reviews aimed at making contribution to the amendment of the land law, and we can't be too ambitious to cover everything, and that's why we start from the demand side. What kind of information is the general public interested in? Land use plan, land master plans, and land pricing frameworks, and these have been found in PAPI survey, where a very low share of respondents or rate of respondents are aware of these information. And when we look further at the demographic features of those respondents who said they are aware of the information, they mainly work for government agency or similar entities. So in addition to posting these information at the office of the authorities, the land law requires the authorities to disclose this information on their web portal. And so the land law requires them to disclose. So we try to find out which made them not to disclose. Why? What resulted in non-disclosure? Whether it is because of the intention to hide the information, or is it because of something else? If you look at the case of a scandalous case of Thủ Thiêm. You see that at the core of Thủ Thiêm district, the price was quite different from the peripheral area. And it's kind of 97 times higher price. So people, ordinary people, they are more interested in the value of the certain land lot. And if ordinary citizens were not aware of the value or the price applicable to them in land seizure, of course, they make complaints or denunciation. And thank you also for the suggestion for the detail of more in-depth research. To build on what Huyền has said, why the performance on information disclosure has been not satisfactory. So instead of digging down further into the problems, we'll try to promote good practices. So we'll go to the good performers. After this, we'll go to good performers and try to find out what has resulted in their good practices. And hopefully such good practices will be shared among across local governments. Regarding the sender role, well, this is an experiment. So it's not, it's an experiment. So we wrote the letters requesting the information under different hat or different roles. I mean, the response was marginally different across different sender roles. Probably later on we could invite a local government to speak on this. Bắc Giang have 100% of districts disclosing their land use plans. So I asked the representative later on. Yes, later on. Yeah, we'll ask him to share. And Vân Anh, back to you. Concerning Mr. Lam's question about the land gate, will that be feasible in Vietnam? Any likelihood to materialize such, to envisage such land gate in Vietnam? One of the key policy reforms for the upcoming period is by 2025, have to have land information system in place. It's not an easy task, but that's a task set forth in Resolution 18. It's not an easy one because land and cadastral records have been accumulated over time, and it's mainly paper-based, and poor management practices of cadastral records would make it very difficult to have a database, to have a centralized, consistent database. But it's been made clear that the database, the information system will be in place, and land database has been identified as one of the 6 national databases. And we have also obtained loans from the World Bank for this initiative. And at least for the current being, districts and communes, they are connected to the database. And so I think as a late mover, we could take advantage of technology, right? We can avoid the failures or the problems with the forerunner, because countries who have experiencing the construction of such database and information system have encountered with numerous system development problems. So it's critical to modern land administration to have a comprehensive, modern comprehensive land database, and database and information system about land have been embedded in Land Law 2013. Technical solutions will be addressed by government regulations like a decree, but this should be embedded in the law. Well, we have a lot of expectations for that. And for example, we had a case in Phú Quốc where the land use right have been sold to 9 different buyers over the same land lot. So having a centralized and uniform database would be very important. Well, I understand that many of you are interested in the land pricing frameworks, but I think we should understand this correctly. First, we have land pricing framework and land that, well, actually they do have a very general frame that set forth the principle for pricing or valuing land. And you know that if you look at other countries, you see that land pricing or land valuation framework or table are based on market rates, but it never consistent with, it never comparable to the market rates. Land valuation is complicated. Not everyone has the expertise of land valuation, right? Because in order to have a correct land valuation, you need a lot of information. The government may try to provide a land value based on historical data, but historical data are understated. For example, in previous transactions, they understate the price, or in land auctions, they overstate, they inflate the information, and there are also a lot of characteristics peculiar to a property, which leads to different level of value of a property. So we need to look at, we need to be aware that land valuation is really complicated, and corruption or rent seeking is, I think it doesn't come originally from the land pricing framework. So there are several methods for land valuation, but still we need data information to ensure the accuracy. So when we talk about the land pricing table or framework, we need to be very clear about what we are talking about, because talking about land, we need to have a comprehensive understanding of different aspects before we can make any comment. I just thinking about the legends. I mean the old tales of imagining an elephant by just touching one part of the elephant. Miss Đào Thu Hương, please. And then a representative from Bắc Giang province will share some good practices. Good morning. My name is Đào Thu Hương, and I'm from the UNDP program for inclusion of persons with disability, and regarding the Article 19 and Article 25 of the proposed amendments to the land law. As said earlier, I am working for a program for person with disability inclusion, and according to the most recent reports disclosed by WHO, the persons with disabilities are a significant visible minority group, and persons with disabilities vary in the type and the level of disability, and they are disadvantaged because they have more limited access to information and health care. In the 2022 research under PAPI, which we look at the experience of about 1,600 persons with disabilities, only 46% of the respondents who are persons with responsibilities said that they are named in the property title or ownership certificate, and this is disproportionate, much lower than the general of 72%. 72% of other PAPI respondents. So it's like underrepresented. Of course, this is linked to various obstacles and barriers which prevent them from having their names in the land ownership title or certificate. And one of the problem has to do with the lack of access to information. I myself surf around some government agency web portal, but you see that it's really difficult for us. For example, as I can see, so I can read the maps. And also we have persons with audio disabilities, visual disabilities. It's really difficult for them to have access to information. And in the law states in a very general manner that the citizens have the right to information access. The government agency are obligated for disclosing the information, but the law is silent about the format of information to be disclosed to make sure that all groups in the general public should have access to land law information. And I think the drafters of the amended land law should consider this. That's the first point. The second point, in clause 13, article 12 of the draft amended land law, you mentioned, the drafter mentioned gender discrimination. But discrimination is not just gender-based. You may see in family discrimination between persons with disabilities and normal person, adopted children and birth children. And 69.5% of the complaints and denunciation have to do with land conflicts. Did you have disaggregated data to see the complaints and denunciation that come from persons with disabilities? Because in most cases, persons with disabilities, like children with disabilities, are at disadvantage when it comes to property ownership. But whether they have a power or they are in the position to make complaints or denunciation. For example, I've worked with some women with disabilities, and they told me that when their parents gave the inheritance or divided the asset or property to their children, the woman with disabilities, the daughter with disabilities, did not receive any part of the asset distributed by the parents. But then the son took it all, but then the son did not take care of the parents. It's the daughter with disabilities who did not move out, had to take care of the parents. Thank you, Hương, for very important feedback and information. And I am not sure if there is any one want to respond to this. Well, I must say upfront that I'm not part of the drafting team. But I work for the Central Women Union, and I feel thankful that I could have this information shared by Hương. Land Law 2013 has introduced changes to include principle of CEDAW. For example, having the name of women in the land use right certificate. But as far as I understand, 12 million land use rights certificates haven't been upgraded or updated to include the wife's name. But that's another problem. And I agree that there are other forms of discrimination, not just the gender-based discrimination. For example, adopted children versus birth children, children with disabilities and persons without disabilities. And also in the compensation policy for land acquisition, we've suggested that to include the daughter-in-law and the son-in-law to be part of the family household if they live there. So many people said that we should stop using the concept of household, but I think it's still important because in Vietnam we have other relationship in the household. For example, daughter-in-law who live together with their parents-in-law, they worked, right? They care for for the parents, and they take care of the asset, the property. So they should have their fair share in getting the compensation. And similarly to the son-in-law, if they live with their parents-in-law, so having the name of the wife in the land cadastral report would enable women to have a fair right, a fair share of the benefits, and not only the compensation provided when their land are seized, but also the vocational training benefits, because that would be very important for their livelihoods. Yeah. So I think gender issues should be addressed and should be educated to the affected people as well, so that they understand what rights and interests are available to them. And when it comes to lands you right money, the charge might be on annual basis, or maybe the charge for a period of 20 years or 50 years, and that's also part of the assets to the household, and should be recognized not just for the husband, but also for the wife. And I'm very touched by the story that you shared with us, and here it comes to the role of the guardian. If making sure that persons with disabilities will be protected, particularly when land is seized. And I hope that the inclusion of the gender, inclusion of gender issues in policies on land compensation will provide better access to resources for women in and the important thing is how to disseminate the information to various stakeholders, including minority group, to understand the amendments, so no one could be left behind. So Papi would need your support and to conduct further research and further promotion of the implementation of relevant law and conventions, including CEDAW. Well, thank you, Nhung. The current draft of the amendment to the land law has some text regarding the access to information by ethnic minorities group, by minority groups, I should say, rather than just ethnic minority groups. So when you say minority groups and non-discrimination against minority groups, particularly when it comes to access to land information, will be very important. And we have a participant from Bắc Giang province, and we are very excited to listen to your experience, how to reach out to the public, to the citizen, by using your good practices in disclosing land-related information. My name is Nguyễn Ngọc Sơn. I am an assistant to the Provincial People's Committee in the area of managing land dispute and land governance. And the thematic discussion have been really helpful to me. Well, I'm proud that Bắc Giang has 100% of districts who have disclosed the land use plan. Actually, the PPC, the Provincial People's Committee, have completed two things. First, a regulation on democracy in disclosing information. So all information which have to do with land planning, master planning, and pricing must be disclosed. So the regulation of the provincial governments clearly specify what kind of information to be disclosed, in what format, and how, and what local authorities have to do in order to be compliant with this. So that's the first piece of work. And the second piece of work, in our decision to approve the master plan and the land use plan, we always include a text, a requirement there by the PPC requesting the district and Donre to immediately disclose the information. And it also refers to the center for the information center for the province where they disclose the information. So I think the tone has been set at the top. The provincial leadership has been very open and try to promote transparency. But I think it's just the first step. Providing the information or ensuring access to information is just the first step. In Bắc Giang, what we found out is the rate of petition or complaints that have to do with non-disclosure is very small. Most complaints or petitions have to do with the value of the land or dispute between individuals. So very few complaints and petitions about non-disclosure. We have enterprises or businesses operating in Bắc Giang, and they are one of the key group who often send us the request for information. And there's one technical problem here. Updating or uploading a map, it's not easy at all. Usually they use a CAD software or microstation software. So then it's not readable if you don't have that software. So it requires kind of like a special software or application. But if the map is provided in the form of a photo, that is not clear, not easy to read. So we are now working with Monterey in developing the land database with funding funded by loans obtained from the World Bank. I've been to the US and learned about their system. And there are a lot of differences, you know. And when I talked to the colleagues there, they said that to have a fully developed system, it has taken them kind of like 30 years with a lot of financial and time resources. So also a private sector entity may be able to do that, but there would be other potential problems as well. And back in 1997 or 2000, we issued the land use rights certificate, but when we remeasure the figures did not match, and that has created a lot of legal challenges. So a lot of challenges in developing a land information gate or database. But I think with the strong political will, yes, we'll move ahead with this. Yes, this is an issue of great interest to central government and local government. So it is a requirement that the system must be in place by end of 2025. But as I said, usually it takes longer time to have a fully developed. But I'm strongly convinced that we can do it. Thank you very much. Your experience will be helpful to many your colleagues in other provinces, at least in fulfilling the obligation as required by the current law. So the strong willingness of the top leadership in the local government, and also the oversight role of other stakeholders will be very important. As we've run out of time, I think we'll come to the end of the panel discussion. Ms. Phương, can you have some concluding remarks? Well, ladies and gentlemen, within one morning session, we've listened to the research findings jointly conducted by CPU and UNDP, and this has provided us an overall picture of the local government performance in disclosing land-related information as required by law. And we've had a very fruitful panel discussions and with a lot of comments, feedbacks, and questions from the audience to further refine our research. We would like to express our thanks, sincere thanks to participants on site and also online. And thanks to the media outlets for covering this event. Special thanks to our 4 panelists for sharing their perspectives, making comments and suggestions for the research team. And congratulations and thanks to the research team of CPU and UNDP and the support from real-time analytics. And last but not least, our thanks to Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Embassy of Ireland and UNDP for supporting us and funding this research initiative. Wish all of you peace and success. And please join us for a group photo up here. Thank you. If you have further topics, you can send your questions. You can send your questions